let's say hi to my guest today. Comedian, author, mental health campaigner Dave Chawner is my guest today. His show, which is called Mental, is tonight at the Exchange in Old Market in Bristol. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
Great to have you on. And your show tonight is sold out, I see.
I am, yeah, but I don't want to put anyone off. So basically, there's two shows and an extra show, so 7:30, 9:30. They have technically both sold out, but
what does technically mean?
Well,
that
some people
haven't?
won't. Well, some people won't. And we'll shove people in like cupboards and stuff like that. It'll be fine. They'll be swinging from the light fittings, so it'll be breaking every health and safety regulation there is going. But yeah, I've been speaking to the venue. We can fit a couple more people in.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to put people off.
No, exactly. That's the thing. And it's at the Exchange, which is a really great venue.
It's great.
That's a good sport. Well
Bristol
done.
is. I just love this place. Like, everyone's like so nice and so lovely, and it's a really great venue. That actually, you know, it's rare that there are sort of live music venues and events venues like that are doing well.
Yeah, I had an email back from you when I booked you as a guest, and it's the first time I've had an email back from a guest with a picture of a dog saying "You the best." It was quite a moment because, of course, normally I get back from PRs things like, "Anyway, that's great, all confirmed, blah blah blah, the date and everything," and it's really boring. But "You the best" and a picture of a dog just made my day. A cockapoo.
Thank you.
Any cockapoo in particular, or just some random thing that you picked up?
It was one off the internet, but I'm obsessed by dogs at the moment. I would go as far as to say I think dogs are better than humans. So I'm working on
There's quite a good argument for that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on a new Edinburgh show at the moment called Underdog. It's all about if dogs are better than humans, and because we tried to sort of get a little sausage dog, and I found for someone that doesn't like football. That's always the typical chat, isn't it? Oh, you know, football or weather. But actually, I found that dogs is just a great chat.
Really?
If you had a childhood dog, you like dogs, and now you can spend for hours just talking about what dog you had, what dog you would be.
Yeah.
I think that's a lovely one.
Do you know what? I was covering on a breakfast show once, and we did this thing about dogs that had human names, and it went off like you would not believe. It was incredible. And then I got home, my partner said, "But don't all dogs have like human names?"
No.
No, they don't though, do they?
No.
Rover. That's not a human name.
The thing that I love is there's this middle class thing at the moment of giving your dogs like old people's names. So whenever I go to the park near me, they'll be like Cyril, Herbert, and it's like last of the summer wine because there's people just like calling these like really old names that I haven't heard in years.
I love that. Cyril,
it's brilliant.
Cyril, that's amazing. Okay, now tell us about what you're going to be doing tonight. I've seen some of your stand-up stuff. Is it like that?
It is like that. I mean, basically, so the whole kind of conceit of the show is using comedy to talk about mental health rather than mental illness, because obviously 1 in 4 people has mental illness, but 4 in 4 people have mental health. And I just find it a bit off-putting that whenever people talk about mental health, there's always this tone of like, oh, now for something serious.
Yeah.
And no wonder it puts people off. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to... Not everyone that goes to the gym wants to be Mr. Muscle 3000. You can go to the gym to keep fit. And I think there's a huge gap that I see that's opening up of sort of people talking about mental illness, and we're actually just talking about staving off mental illness, where actually we should be promoting mental health.
Yes. I'm doing the sad voice already. I noticed when I was talking to you just then. Do you talk about ways in which... and I know you are a mental health campaigner, but essentially you talk and you do comedy and stuff like that. Do you talk about in your shows ways to maintain that wellness?
The whole show, the whole conceit of the show is about coping mechanisms, because one of the things I was asked to write a book a couple of years ago, and you get a lot of backlash, you know, people saying, oh, you're just trying to be famous to like jump on the mental health bandwagon. I understand that people get annoyed with that, but what I wanted to do is write the book when I was 17, and when I was 17 I needed 2 things. I needed coping mechanisms, and I needed people to treat me like a person, not a patient, which is why I think comedy is really important, because as soon as people found out I got a mental illness, they sort of dropped their voice. They got really like... I genuinely thought, until the age of 17, I thought that all librarians were mentally ill, because they were the only other people that people used to like whisper around. So I think we need to normalise the conversation around mental health. And as part of that, I talk about the 5 ways to wellness. These are just directions to help you towards mental health. So that's connection, action, learning, mindfulness, and giving. And I kind of expound on that a little bit in the show.
Yeah, but you are also very funny. I mean, I've been watching some videos. Despite that, he's very funny.
Well, thank you.
Because I've been watching some videos and you talked about, there's that story about, you say about how in schools we have physical education, we should have mental education, which is a really good point, which is like, you know, there would be no mental education in my schooling. I mean, physical education was the thing that probably made me feel most depressed, to be honest.
That is true, though, isn't it?
You know, being put out there in the wind and rain and made to run.
Yeah.
And it put me off so much that until I got into my 40s, I could never run. Because I just thought, I'm not even going to attempt it because I hated it so much.
Do you enjoy running?
I don't love it.
No, I've never met anyone that enjoys it.
But presumably, like, Usain Bolt loves running, don't you think? I mean, he only does it for 10 seconds, but...
I've never seen anyone that's run and thought, "Oh, they look like they're having a great time." It's always just instantly put me up. Don't get me wrong, I love a walk. I'll have a little toddle. I'm going to go round now. I'm going to go round Clifton. I'm going to go round Reddit. I'm going to have a lovely time.
Yeah.
But if I was jogging, absolutely not. If I wanted to get red and sweat, then I'd just look at my tax rebate. That's all I don't need any of that in my life. And I think this is the thing as well, that you can live in the extremes, but actually most people are in the middle ground. And again, you don't have to be Usain Bolt in order to run. You can just, you go for a jog in the park. My mom got really excited when she heard about the 10-step program, which like a lot of alcoholics use, because she thought that meant that she could just walk 10 steps a day. And I was like, absolutely not. That's nothing to do with it. It's completely different.
Amazing. I saw you being interviewed, and this is a coup, on Lorraine Kelly's show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. What a star.
She's great. She was really lovely. That was when the book came out. And the thing that I really liked about it, she was nothing but lovely to me. And she sort of said, I read the book and it's good. And it was these surprise.
Did she say that on
voice. Yeah.
Oh,
it's good.
It's good.
It was like, she was like really surprised. Like, this is odd. I did not expect this. But yeah, she was absolutely lovely.
So she doesn't get a researcher to read her books for you because she is Lorraine Kelly, for goodness sake.
This is exactly what I thought. And she came down into the little green room and she got my book and it got like scribbles in there and I was like,
wow.
Because I honestly, and I'm not having a go, I would not have judged her in any way, shape or form if she'd have turned around and said, "Oh, I'd thought the book," and then read the title as if she'd never actually read. But she actually had looked at it. And I'm not going to lie, that's one of the most nervous things I've ever been, because I was like, oh, she's read it. Because when you write, you don't expect, like, you don't really expect people to read it.
Yeah.
A lot of people are surprised that I can write, let alone read. So, you know.
Graham Norton famously always says when he's got writers on his show, "I never read the books." Like, just straight out.
I don't judge him. You must get this all the time, because like there are some brilliant, sort of interviews that you do. I remember like years ago, I lived in Southampton and we got to go in the studio for BBC Solent, and there was the World Cress Awards.
What?
And you could
local radio at its finest. The local Cress Awards.
The local Cress Awards, and it was a big thing. And they were like, "Oh, I followed this for years," and I was like, "Have you?" Have you ever had any weird interviews like that? We're
not that micro. I have to say, we're not Cress Awards level.
Not like the World Bollard Association or something coming in. No, okay.
I like to think we only have big names, Dave. Big names.
That's why I'm asking, because I'm here and I'm like, what's going on? I'm tiny. This is ridiculous.
Well, you sent me a nice email.
Well, thank you, with a picture of a dog.
And you've been on Lorraine Kelly. So,
also went on BBC Breakfast recently. This is like, genuinely, this is a conceit of the show. Like, I don't want to give away too much, but I was on BBC Breakfast like 3 months ago.
Who did you get on BBC Breakfast? Who was hosting?
Dan and Louise.
Oh, big names.
Absolutely lovely. And they were great. But whenever you do these things, there's also a lovely researcher that calls you up and tells you about the show. And I just thought this would be a great conceit for the show, because the researcher rang me up and said, "I'm really excited to talk to you because I've never had any mental health." And I was like, "What?" And she went, "I've never had no one that I know has ever had any mental health. In fact, I've never met anyone that's had any mental." And I was like, "What are you, a toaster?" Right? And it made me realise that people sort of think that like mental health and mental illness are a lot like ant and deck, because they're two separate things, but no one ever distinguishes between the two.
Yeah, very confusing for the research. Did you have to fill them in then?
I did.
Or did you just gloss over the fact that they never had mental health?
I mean, it opened up a wonderful conversation. I think that's the thing as well. I never want to be preachy about this sort of stuff, because I would never have learned about mental health unless I'd had my own mental illness. And I think everybody, no matter how, no matter what your background, everyone comes from a place of ignorance. That is the nature of knowledge. And it's not about telling people off for what they don't know.
I think maybe we've got into that space of telling people off quite a lot about lots of stuff, instead of just letting people find out or helping. Just a lot of telling off, isn't there?
I think we're focusing so much of the way, and again, this is another thing in the mental health sphere that can be very toxic, but we focus on content rather than intent. So people focus on certain words that people might have used incorrectly, and instead of focusing on the intention behind it. And actually, some of the worst things that can be said can actually be said from the most right intentions of people trying to learn.
I agree.
And of course, you're going to get things wrong along the way.
And then you get shot down on social media.
Hugely.
In seconds. Where did you do lots of research into what you talk about and what you write about?
Well, this is the sketch. My girlfriend.
Does that mean no?
No.
By your face?
I always love talking about this because my girlfriend's actually a doctor of psychology.
Oh, handy.
So we actually originally met because the first show that I did was about how I had anorexia as a teenager. She did her doctoral thesis on men with eating disorders. We met at a conference in Brighton.
Wow.
And
and love blossomed.
Well, I would say that,
thesis.
I'm a case study. I'm not really a boyfriend. I'm, just a long term. It's kind of like that, really.
Let's hope she stays in that field then.
Oh, it'd be great. Imagine if she took a sabbatical and became like a sales rep or something. I'd be screwed. But a lot of work does sort of go into it, because I want to make sure that I sort of signpost people, and there are wonderful charities like Mind, Beat, which is the UK's eating disorder charity, Samaritans, and there's also some brilliant ones around here as well, local and national ones. And I always kind of, if people are in a vulnerable space, so if you want more information, here's where you go.
Yeah, and is that how you end your shows? I mean, when you do your shows, you get lots of people coming and talking to you afterwards, or do you just get in a fast car and leave?
No.
Right, done that. Out.
No, I think that's the thing that's weird about doing these kind of shows, because I've done shows before that you can be, and obviously doing clubs there, you can just go. But I think it's really important to, if people want to talk, just listen. And just kind of hear, what they've got to say. And sometimes people ask for advice, and I'm always really, really quick to sort of say, I'm not an expert, but these people are, and they can help you. But I always sort of stick around afterwards.
Yeah. I always feel like I'm a terrible listener, like I just chip in all the time.
I don't think so.
Like I have to get my opinion in. So, and I think it's quite tough to do, though, isn't it? If somebody comes to you and says, I'm not dealing very well with this, not to do the old, oh yes, I was in a similar position merely weeks ago, and this is how I dealt with it. And they probably don't want to hear that bit, do they? You just have to shut up.
Yeah, well, funny enough, I had an empathy training workshop yesterday, which I realise makes me sound like a psychopath, but it was something that was like part of a bigger day. And they were saying exactly that like they said the rule one of empathy is if someone comes to you, don't say, oh, I've had this. Say, oh, that's rubbish. But I think you do that.
Yeah.
I think as soon as you analyse things too much, you get nervous. Like if someone sort of said focus on your breathing, you would act like you've never breathed before, but you've been breathing for decades. So I think with things like this, I think you are a good learner, and I think people get nervous around mental health because there can be a lot of preachiness and lots of caustic stuff, but actually 9 times out of 10 people just want to do the right thing, and I genuinely think that's why people are nervous to talk about it, because they don't want to say the wrong thing, and the easiest way to not say the wrong thing, just don't say anything at all.
Agreed. But don't be completely silent, because that's even weirder. If someone's telling you their problems, just don't not say anything, because they will actually go away.
I think that's great. That's advice.
Top advice. Dave, brilliant to meet you. Great to have you on the show. Really enjoyed that. Dave Chawner.